Demon's Crest, the last of the Gargoyle's Quest trilogy and a Capcom title released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo. It may be one of the most underrated Super Nintendo games, in many people's opinion, and there is a lot to love in this game. However, there are a few really frustrating things that I think hold this game back from being one of the classic must-play action games on the system. Let's start with the game's story. The game's plot revolves around the Crests, 6 magical stones which preside over the respective elements: fire, earth, water, air, time, and heaven. When the 6 Crests unite, they form Earth's greatest champion, Captain Planet. The demons of the Demon Realm have long fought each other for possession of the Crests, 5 of which have since fallen into the hands of a red demon named Firebrand. Seeking infinite power, Firebrand challenges a demon dragon for the Crest of Heaven and is victorious. When he leaves to heal his wounds, however, the weakened Firebrand is attacked by a rival demon named Phalanx, and loses all of his crests to him. As the game begins, Phalanx has already begun to use the crests to become the new ruler of the Demon Realm, while Firebrand is imprisoned in an amphitheater and fights a giant zombified demon dragon. After escaping, Firebrand sets out to regain the crests and get his revenge. Like the other games, the story in this game is pretty good. It's not at the forefront, but there's just enough of it to make the game interesting and so that you have motivation to keep going. It's not bad. The gameplay is significantly different from the other games though. First of all, unlike the other games where you had a bar that denoted your wing power or how long you could fly, in this game you can fly for an indefinite amount of time. There's no issue about running out of power and falling to your death. This game's also much less linear, whereas the other games had you wandering through a world map where you went from destination to destination. This game kind of gives you all the levels almost at once, and you can go on them in any order you'd like. However, the issue with this is that there's a lot more backtracking, where you'll have to get new powers and bring them back to other levels. Speaking of powers, this game is in more of the Mega Man style, where if you defeat a boss, you pick up a new power-up. In this game, the power-up comes in the form of new demon forms, where you can become like the water demon who can swim underwater, a flying demon, a gargoyle that can bash through things. It's pretty cool. It's nice to have all this variety with all these different power-ups and to go about the levels in basically any way you want using the 6 crests. Here's the things I liked about this game. The levels are sprawling. They're big, they have different designs that keep things fresh, and it feels like the locations and the challenges are always changing up. The different monster designs were a lot of fun, and since you have all these different forms, you'll never really play through a level the same way twice. It's very different from the previous games also, which is very nice. The use of the world map was also a really cool change, because you had all this freedom, which you don't actually see in a lot of games of the era. There was some mini-games to play, shops, and a ton of secrets to find. However, there are some pretty glaring issues with Demon's Crest that disappointed me a bit, especially after how much people hyped up this game. The game's non-linearity was kind of a pain in the ass. It's hard to find locations on the world map, and when you do, there's a crazy, terrible amount of backtracking in this game. Like, you'll replay levels half a dozen times, especially if you're like me and you have no idea what you're doing the first time around. Figuring out to go was basically a huge pain in the ass. Also, the boss battles were really hit and miss. The bosses themselves were cool and interesting, like very fun to fight and very intelligently designed, but I agree with the Happy Video Game Nerd. Some of these bosses felt like they take too many hits for no reason, or they become really too easy when you have certain powers. The game's not balanced in a way kind of like Mega Man X, where in your original form, yes, it's a challenge to take everyone down, but it still feels feasible. Here, if you try to be like the normal Firebrand, you're probably going to get your ass kicked a lot of the time, and that feels kind of unfair in a way. Especially if you don't know the order of what you're playing. It's a non-linear game, so it's kind of unfair. However, despite these things, I still had a great time with this game, and I think that since we live in the age of the internet and I easily fix these problems by looking up a walkthrough, It's not really too much of a big deal, but still enough to annoy me. The graphics in the game are probably the biggest highlight to me. The gothic style, the varied locations, the very creepy Halloweeny atmosphere. Especially these bosses, man, these bosses were really gruesome, like disgusting. They got under your skin. The game had some really memorable designs, especially that opening level, and basically every level was very memorable. The music in the game is also excellent. I love the use of the pipe organ. The opening level music is again awesome. The overall music was really good. It was a tad repetitive. I didn't really like the boss theme, but still, the music was fantastic and really helped set the mood. In conclusion, yes, Demon's Crest is really overlooked, but I don't think it quite stacks up to other A+ action games on the system like Super Metroid, Super Mario World, or Super Castlevania. That doesn't change the fact that this is still a really underrated, unknown game that's a ton of fun, and I recommend it especially if you like non-linear action games on the system, or even if you like the previous games on the system, or even if you like previous games in the series. Again, like the Happy Video Game Nerd, I really wish that they would just polish this game up a bit more and send it out with an HD remake, because if this was a lot more cleaner, it would be an absolute must-play on the system. But as it stands now, I gotta say that it's just an excellent title on the system that you should really check out if you like action games and if you're willing to backtrack and deal with the non-linearity. Thanks for watching.